Welcome to the session on dividing fractions by whole numbers. In our first example, we have 1/4 divided by 2. If we think about it, what this problem is asking us to do is to take this 1/4 section and divide it into 2. So if we go ahead and do that, if we divide by 2, what ends up happening is that this section, even though it's not quite even, it's being divided into 2, and so one of the sections we're claiming, and the other sections out of the total, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So 1/4 divided by 2 is 1/8. Let's take a look at another example. Here we have 1/2 divided by 3. So again, what this is saying is take 1/2 and we're going to divide it into thirds. So if we divide it into thirds, roughly that looks like thirds, and we would take one section of it. This has been divided into thirds. I haven't demonstrated yet, but if I extended these lines, this would be divided into thirds as well. And so now we would have a new denominator of 6. And since one of the sections is shaded in, when we divided 1/2 into 3 parts, our numerator is 1. So 1/2 divided by 3 is 1/6. Let's take a look yet at another problem. Here we have 1/6 divided by 3. So I'm going to take this 1/6 section because it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So it's talking about 1/6 of this and dividing this into thirds. So if I divide that into thirds, one section we claim. Now, what would our numerator, or our numerator is 1, what would our denominator be? If I'm dividing this part into thirds, then I'm dividing these other sections into thirds as well. And I'm not going to do that just only because it's going to be very sloppy and you're going to see a lot of lines. But what would our new denominator be based on this? Well, we have 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18. So 1/6 divided by 3 is 1/18. How about another example? Here we have 2/3 and we're going to divide it by 5. So let's divide the 2/3 into 5 equal sections. So that's 1 section, 2 sections, 3 sections, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sections. So we divided one of these 2/3 into 5 sections, and we'll do the same thing for the other. Okay, so now we have 2/3 and we divided it by 5. So one of these sections would be colored in from the 2/3, and another section from the second 2/3 would be colored in. So now we have 2 sections, but out of how many total? If you recall, we divided one section by 5, another section by 5, and by default, this section would need to be divided by 5 as well. So now we have a new denominator of 5, 10, 15. So 2/3 divided by 5 is 2/15. One last problem, 5/6 divided by 3. So that means we're going to take each one of these sections and divide it by 3. Let's do that. So we're going to divide this by 3. We divide this by 3. this section by 3, this section by 3, and this section by 3. And we're asked to take one slice from each of these sections. So there's one section, there's two sections, here's another slice from the third section, another slice from the fourth section, and another slice from the fifth section. So we have 5 sections colored, and what would our new denominator be? We divided each of these 5 sections into thirds. So we have a third here, 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 and by default we would be dividing this into thirds and a third there. So 3 times 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 is 18. So 5/6 divided by 3 is 5/18. Let's see if we can discover a pattern here. We've had 1/4 divided by 2, and we said that that's 1/8. Well, if we take 1/8 and multiply it by 2, we'll get back to 1/4. So the question is, what would 1/4 times what number would equal 1/8? 1/4 times what number would equal 1/8? That's the question here. So if we change this, 1/4 times some number would equal 1/8. How about here? 1/2 divided by 3 equals 1/6. Well, we're asking ourselves, if 1/6 times 3 equals 1/2, 1/2 times some number will equal 1/6. So if we change this to 1/2 times, and we'll put a question mark up here. So now let's take a look at this. For 1/4, we have to multiply by what to get to 8? Well, we would multiply it by 2. And here, 1 times what number would equal 1? Well, that would be 1. How about for the second example? 1/2 times what number will equal 1/6? Well, 1 times 1 equals 1. 2 times what equals 6? Well, 2 times 3 equals 6. So do we notice a pattern here of some sort? That we've changed, and what I can do is I can go ahead and erase the little question marks. And what have we done here? What do you notice? Well, hopefully you've noticed that we've taken 1/4 and we're multiplying it by the reciprocal of 2, which is 1/2. We're taking 1/2 times the reciprocal of 3, which is 1/3, and that equals 6. So based on this pattern, 1/6 times the reciprocal of 3, which is 1/3, would equal 1/18, and it does. 2/3 times the reciprocal of 5, which would be 1/5, is 2/15, and that checks. 5/6 divided by the reciprocal, 5/6 multiplied by the reciprocal of 3 is 5/18. Well, the reciprocal of 3 is 1/3. So in all of these problems here that we've come to learn, that when we're dividing fractions, what we end up doing, multiply by the reciprocal.